So welcome back to our second session this morning. And this session, it's about having family love in difficult circumstances. And we all know that marriages are always not a bed of roses. There will be uphill tasks, obstacles, difficulties, and challenges. And we need to look towards solutions to try and overcome these challenges to get back on track. And I always believe that when you face difficult challenges in marriages, when you succumb them, you become stronger. So it's like the sufferings of Christ, they make us stronger. So likewise here we have a distinguished panel of speakers to give you their examples of how they've gone through issues and challenges and risen above it all. So without further ado, I will introduce them. First of all, we have Rick and Monica, who represent Retrovi, Greg and Joy from the Couple in Bond program, Jillian, who is from the Surviving Divorces, and Brother Colin, who does counseling and work with the young people in Hope House. Before I have them speak to you, 7 minutes each, as usual, I'd like to just throw some questions to think about, and then they will give their own sharings. The first question is, why are marriages facing seemingly greater challenges today than ever before? Why are marriages facing seemingly greater challenges today than ever before? I say seemingly because if you're a strong couple, these challenges are not difficult. If you don't have the faith and the elements of a sacramental marriage, it becomes truly challenging. The second question is, what solutions do we see as remedies for the current challenges being faced? What solutions do we see as remedies? So how do you work out your issues and difficulties? The last one, which is where CFL comes in, where the church comes in, how is the church attentive to the needs of parents and children, holding these families who are in distress? So what's the role of the church in attending to the needs of dysfunctional families, couples, and children? So without further ado, we invite Greg and Joy to begin the session. Greg and Joy.
Hi, morning everybody. So we are Greg and Joy. So just to give you a bit of background, we actually knew each other from church for a long time, back since we were teenagers. In fact, I was one of the facilitators for the church camp that she was in. So she was 3 years younger, I was a facilitator, and that was how I got to know her. But it was more like, we just knew each other from church, but and we were in a close group of friends, but we didn't really get together. So I remember very clearly one of the times when her mom, because her mom is from the same church as I am, she was so direct and so straightforward. She came up to me after Mass. She said, "Hey Greg," that time we were not together yet. She said, "Greg, why don't you come and date my daughter? Come and chase my daughter." So that was the beginning of knowing my in-laws, right? But of course, nothing happened. I was dating someone else, and after that, we kind of led our own lives. That was when we were teenagers. And then we grew up and we started working. And after she finished her university, she came back to Singapore. And I was 25 years old, I remember. And we actually ended our previous relationships. So that's why we got together, and I remember very closely. So 2005, we started dating, we got together. 2006, I proposed. 2007, we got married. 2008, our first baby came. And then I was like, wow, things happen in a blur. It happened so fast. Just now that couple, right, was sharing that they took 9 years. We took 9 months or less than that. So that was our initial stage to marriage. And because we didn't have any catechesis to it, right, we struggled. We struggled a lot, especially in the first 3 years. In fact, it came to a point where we kind of had so much challenges, we almost gave up. Until one day we met somebody She was actually our daughter's teacher. Her name is Annabelle. She said, "Hey, why don't you all come for this thing called CEP, Couple Empowerment Program?" And that was what changed our lives.
So just to add on, I think the struggle that started was also because we didn't really thought much about marriage and you know what we were getting ourselves into. So of course before marriage everything was good, you know, we thought that we were perfectly compatible with each other, right? Then after marriage, suddenly realized that wow, we are so different. A very different family of origins, and we also had very different expectations of how we want to bring up our kids. So we didn't discuss that much, but the moment our child came about, you know, that's where all the differences came about, and that was one of our struggles. And then the second struggle was with my in-laws. I got to know them in church as well, but I didn't know they were that difficult. So my in-laws are very protective of him. So I remember even when we first dated, right? It was just about 10 p.m. And then when my father-in-law tried to call his son to find out where he was, he couldn't get his son, so he called my dad. And my dad was like, I don't even know where my daughter is. It's fine, you know. And then he was like sleeping. Yeah, so that's how different our families are. And I remember how my in-laws didn't support my idea of breastfeeding. So my mother-in-law even threw away my breast milk in front of me, because she said that, you know, your breast milk doesn't look good, doesn't look nutritious, and yeah, she's like, why you want to feed your daughter breast milk? Yeah, so that's how the struggles came about. And then the third main struggle was the lack of intimacy and communication. So my focus was very much on the child, my daughter, and then with all the night feeds and you know the new routines, it was very tiring. And also trying to manage a full-time job. At that point in time, I was an accountant with Keppel Corp. Yeah, and so I realized that for us, from soulmates, we actually became housemates. And over time, there was this lack of intimacy, maybe also because I was just too tired. And subsequently, then we found out that I found out that how he was into a porn and masturbation. Yeah, and that really hurt me quite a lot, because then I started to think of what am I to my spouse, right? Am I still his wife, or am I a sex object during the intimacy? So so I think ultimately the question was down to what's our decision for our marriage. Is it to continue, or is it to give up? So I think there is really all the challenges that just adds up. And then with that lack of intimacy, lack of communication, every single thing, it was just a blaming game, right? Every single thing that went wrong, it was just like, okay, it's his fault. And or it's like, yeah, it's, we'll quarrel about so many things. And it turns out that, I just ask myself, what are we getting ourselves into, and what is this all about? Should we even then continue? Yeah, so that was the main challenges that we faced.
Thank you, Greg and Joy, and I'm sure you have, as in CEP, a lot more to say, but for the interest of time, it is 7 minutes. So what they've brought out quite clearly are the issues that young couples face. The in-law issues is a big one. You can hear how differing their families of origin are. That's a FOO acronym we use for families of origin. And the challenges of career, as well as the lack of intimacy. So that's why we need a marriage catechumenate. We need to have a community of couples that journey with you to share all these difficulties that you have. And would you like to just add, where are you now in terms of where you were and where you are, before we go on to the next speaker.
Yeah, so we shared the struggles that we had in the initial years, right? In fact, at that point of time, it felt like we were very much alone. So I was doing, I was trying to struggle, we were struggling, and I was thinking, why am I the only person facing all these struggles on my own? Am I different from other couples? And she was going through that same kind of questions at the back of our mind. And because we felt alone, we didn't have a community, we thought that, yeah, maybe it's just us. We were the problems in that sense. After attending CEP, in fact, when I attended CEP, one of the things that I remember very clearly, the reason why I signed up for the course is because I said, I wanted change in the marriage. And the person who had to change at that point of time, I thought, was not me. It was supposed to be her, because she had to make the change to adapt to us, to me, in that sense. But after I attended CP, the first realization I had was that change has to be made, but not with her. It had to be from myself. And that was so empowering, because I realized that the only person who could change is not her, but myself. And when I did that, I attended CP 1 week after another, and I really realized that, the power of community. Because when I was there, I was alone, I was struggling, I thought that this was the only problem I faced. When I went for CP, I realized that, hey, every couple, every family goes through challenges, and the challenges don't stop at the first 3 years. They don't stop at the 5th year. They don't stop at the 15th year. In fact, my parents still struggle with marriage as well. But we see it from a different perspective, because there is a community of people that have gone through that stage of life, and we realize that, hey, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And because of that, I think that's where we said, okay, we wanted to be part of a community. So we joined CEP, we were part of FLM in our ministry, in our church. And because we were able to see light at the end of the tunnel through other couples, after a while, I think because of the strategies and the skills that we've adopted along the way, sometimes, somehow, we also became that beacon of light for other couples as well. So we also have to adhere to that level of expectations that other couples see for us. So in that sense, it's a whole community of people that work around each other and help each other get to the next level of growth. So from where we started, 2010, when we first attended CEP, till now, we are still in the midst of change. We are still in the midst of growth, but I think we are more empowered in today's context.
Thank you. Well done. So it's always work in progress, and we get better and better with time. Okay, thank you, Greg and Joy. So we'll have Rick and Monica now tell us their story.
Hi, my name is Rick, and this is my wife, Monica. So we knew each other from university days. During the horse, we were very close friends, but we only got together, I think, 2.5 years later. We dated for 3 to 4 years before we got married. So we've been married for right now 19 years. We are currently the coordinators for Retrovai. Retrovai is a program for troubled marriage and hurting marriage. We ourselves attended Retrovai within the first 3 years of getting married as well. That was 2006. We were not Catholics then. Later that year, we started actually attending RCIA. At the same time, started writing for Retrovai as a presenting couple.
So a year later, we went through our very first Retrovai weekend as a presenting couple while we were still elect. And finally, the much anticipated high point in our lives came when we were both baptized in the Easter of 2007. So after baptism, we continued serving in Retrovai and also joined our parish RCIA as sponsors for 2 years. We had 3 kids over the next 4 years. So when we attended Retrovai, we didn't have any kids. We had 3 kids over the next 4 years, then endured 3 miscarriages before God blessed us with our littlest one 2 years ago. So she's a whole 12 years younger than our eldest. Rick is an IT professional while I work in the events industry.
3 years into our marriage, we encountered our first major challenge, which was serious enough to bring us to Retrovai as the last attempt to save our marriage. as we started writing our talks, we then realized that it was the different expectation that we had of ourselves and of our spouse and of our marriage that leads us to the cracks. Without having attended any marriage preparation course, because we were not Catholics, we did not even realize that there was a lack of communication. Slowly but surely, we let all these differences snowball into disillusionment. And finally, I think the last straw was an indiscretion that plunged us into misery.
So, actually, as I said there earlier, listening to the last panel, I knew this, but it suddenly hit me again how unprepared we were going into marriage. We really had no idea what, like what I said, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. There is so much to know, to learn before we take that step. And I think maybe that was God's plan for us. Just throw us in the deep end, and then so we worked the other way around. Yeah, we were thrown in the deep end first, and then we tried to swim to shore. So writing the Retrovite talks was like a shot in the arm. So for us, like vaccination, being forced to face our hurts and indiscretions squarely in the face, as raw as they may be, and thinking hard about what led to the breakdown of our marriage, even just within the first 3 years. So that helped us tremendously in the healing process. We were writing not only to give back as a presenting couple, but more so we were writing to heal ourselves. And now with God in our lives, our faith adds meaning to the marriage sacrament. So after we went through this crisis in the first 3 years, we attended Retrovite, we worked at our marriage. So we thought we survived the crisis. After that, we were blessed with 3 beautiful kids. We served in 2 church ministries, and therefore happily ever after, right? So our sharing is like, we want to share the challenges that we face over and over again. So just as we thought that we overcame the first challenge, we knew, of course, that wouldn't be the end, but we just we cannot anticipate what comes next. So of course, with the kids, having 3 kids within 4 years, it just meant that we were very quickly consumed by our parenting duties. And when I rejoined the workforce after being a stay-home mom for 6 years, all the demands, it just adds up. The work, the chores, the parenting. And there were many occasions we just fell back to our old ways, such as shutting each other out, giving silent treatment, and even married singles behavior. So even though we were actively involved in Retrovite, even presenting talks, that doesn't give us the immunity to be free of challenges. And in fact, I think we also struggled with intimacy, like what Greg and Joy shared, because after a while you start to take things for granted again. And we thought that by being involved in the ministry, it maybe give you a false sense of protection and security that, yeah, I'm still working at my marriage, by being presenting couple, by serving in the ministry, but actually it's not. Sometimes we have to be honest to ourselves and really reflect on where we are in the marriage. So, and that's why during those years after we had 3 kids and then I had 3 miscarriage, we were trying to have a 4th child. The challenge was, and then with all the things that add up, there's no intimacy. Then, sex then became is like a chore, and even a way for me to manipulate Rick. It's just for childbearing. It's just to get a 4th child. So that was the challenge we faced, even though we thought that we were, already survived that first challenge. But actually, sometimes we don't realize that we are in the midst of another cycle of disillusionment. Yeah.
So I think in Retrovi we do learn the tools of communication, right? We are really much more aware of where we are. So whenever we get into Cold Wars, we would use the dialogue technique, try to get in touch, and get on track as well. I think for us, being in the community really helps during our recovery years, during the first crisis, because we were with Retrovi, there was a community of like-minded people really trying to save marriages. I think that really helped us. And on top of that, we were with the RCIA. So God was very real because we came from a non-Catholic, non-Christian background. And right now, I think God was in Christ was really kind of the third party in our relationship then. But as I said, this it all adds up, right? Once the kids come in, life gets in the way. So we constantly need to remind ourselves that we need to work on it. The devil is always attacking us. We will go through like the romance stage, the disillusionment, misery. Then we have a awakening. It's just that the cycle will keep continuing. So for us, it's a constant reminder for us to continually work on it. Yeah.
So in 2019, we attended the CP program. So that's where we got to know Bernard and Ying and the couples there. Initially, it arose actually out of our involvement with Retrovi. At that time, we were trying to get more couples to join us. We were trying to poach presenters from CEP. Poach lah, huh? So actually, Bernard and Ying invited Rick and I to join the CEP program, which we did the run at Cathedral. But actually, deep down, on the pretext of our involvement with Retrovi, we joined the program. But actually, deep down, I knew that it's actually God's way of keeping tabs on our marriage. It's like trying to tell you not to be complacent, to bring it back on track wherever we strayed. And actually, when we attended CP, it turns out that we resolved actually some hurts, some long-standing hurts. We had a few heartful talks. We shared on some very tough and uncomfortable topics. But ultimately, God rewarded us with marital intimacy, and strengthened our love and bonds when we attended that program. So, and actually, it was. In fact, straight after that run, there was a retreat. I remember, and Bernard and Ying actually invited us to do a short presentation. Then I was like, no, not again, because I don't know. I think it's just God's way of telling me that I'm watching you. Yeah, don't think you're getting away with things. So in fact, before that retreat, we had a holiday. We had a holiday planned already. And during the holiday, we actually spent quite a bit of time just hold ourselves up in the room and talk through some things before we found that we could discuss what to talk about further. So not the retreat per se, but for me, because I feel that if we have something between us that's not resolved, I can't bring myself to have intimacy or to do a sharing like that in front of other people. So this time round, in fact, when Bernard roped us in for this panel, again I was like, oh no, we need to have another heart-to-heart talk again. So yeah, because I think that to me is being authentic. I don't want to be up here sharing we went through all that, but what we are now is not what we are presenting. I don't want that. Yeah. So actually last night we had a bit of an argument. Yeah.
Wonderful.
To sort out some things before we could come here this morning and give this presentation. So I think God is wonderful in that way. He knows He's watching us. Yeah. So of course, and it was after that CEP retreat, actually that God bless us with our fourth child. Yeah. So we have 3 Retrovi kids and 1 CEP baby.
Are you done?
Yep, we are done.
Okay, great. Do you know, you mentioned about, Rick and Monica, the fact that you went into marriage without knowing what's required to sustain a marriage, and that, you were just in the deep end of the pool, and the good news is you didn't drown. But many couples drown. Anecdotally, we know that in Singapore, 1 in 3 marriages don't make it past 5 years. And by 9 years, 1 in 2. What kind of a legacy is that for marriages as well as for the children that survive that? And we do our best in trying to make marriages work. We work whenever we've got time. But it's a spiritual warfare out there. Satan works 24/7. He's got a whole army of gangsters to disturb all marriages. Pornography, affairs, all these things, lack of intimacy. And then we have a state of marriage and family which is not the best in that sense. So we need to remind ourselves that we need to pray and to get the third partner to be there. And thank you for what you've both shared in terms of the struggles to make marriages work. So now we go on to Jeline, who will share about her story. Jeline Tan.
Thanks, Bernard. Yes, I'm Jeline Tan. Yeah, we've heard Greg and Joy, Rick and Monica shared about their struggles. They are real, very real. And they have worked very hard to save their marriages. And we congratulate them. We can celebrate with them now that they have done their part. And they are continuing to build their marriages, happy families, happy love, happy family love. Okay. Then now we come to the other spectrum, the other side of the spectrum. Those of us who didn't make it, like myself. I had my fair share of difficulties, not very different from what they went through, okay? But I also had all the ingredients for a failed marriage, okay? 9 months, I'm even better than you, 6 months, okay? My husband proposed to me, and then we got married. Very short time, but mine was a late marriage. I wasn't very young then. I was ready, and then my husband was a non-Catholic, okay, but he was easygoing about faith. So you see, I had all the ingredients for a marriage going to the rocks anyway, right? Never mind. Anyway, so people like us failed marriage. So what are we? Failures? Yeah, to many of us here who are with family life and all that, happy family, happily married, you may say those who are divorced are failures, right? We are looked at upon with stigmas, judgments, when we want to serve in the parish, we say, no, you cannot be a catechist, you're divorced, right? You cannot be a communion minister, you cannot be a godparent. A lot of these are thrown at us. And then what happened? You cannot receive Holy Communion. You're a sinner. No, you cannot receive Holy Communion. A lot of divorce are deprived of that Holy Communion. All the wrong catechesis was given to us. So for me, okay, I got a bit emotional at the start of the panel while they were speaking because the angel that God sent to me in my life during my struggle walked into the room. And I recalled how God has saved me, how He has loved me, that He sent me all these angels. The first thing I wanted when I know that my marriage is going towards divorce, is that I asked God, how can I ensure that I don't lose the sacraments in my marriage? That's the most important thing for me. How do I not lose the sacrament? How can I be? I heard of a lot of people being excommunicated, so-called. I said, I don't want that. I want to continue to be able to receive the sacraments. How do I do that? I went out. I prayed to God, of course, and I went out to seek a good spiritual director. God was never late when it comes to such things. He sent me a good spiritual director who guided me in my discernment towards this path. Okay. I also knew I needed legal advice. Anyway, I have to go for legal divorce and all that, and I have a young son at that point in time. I also need legal advice. And then I need emotional help. So I went to counselor hunting. Again, God sent me a very good counselor who I got connected with on the very first session. Okay. So all these were help given to me, and I really thank God for that. So, but you see, the very people whom I thought I could go to for help are the people in the church, but none of them. I just couldn't go to them because I heard all these accusations. I hear all these stigmas. How do I go to you? Oh, you happily married people, you know. I go to you, say, why you divorced? What have you done wrong? You know. I think on behalf of all those who are divorced, I want to say to you, you know, we're already badly hurt when we have to go through this. So please don't look at us with such accusation eyes and judgments. Learn how to approach us with compassion, with empathy. Okay? On behalf of all those who are going through difficult times, I ask you to help in this area. Okay? So, my presence here in this World Meeting of Families, such a big event, you know, talking about family, where am I? I'm a witness to God's love. Okay? I'm a witness and a testimony that there is hope and there is life. I can still live a life full of living the sacraments fully. Okay? Immediately after my divorce, okay, I was asked to be the head of my lector ministry. And I served in that ministry for 2 terms. In my second term, I was even elected as a PPC Exco. I'm not trying to brag about things, okay? I'm just trying to say that God, for whatever reason that He has chosen me, despite all the failures, so-called, that I have, okay? I see myself, I told my parish priest, I said, are you sure you want me to be a PPC Exco chairman? I'm a divorced, you know. And I was very direct with him. He says, why not? Okay. So, and I'm now currently very, very active in the parish. Okay. Like it or not, as what Bernard has said, divorce rate has gone up. Okay. So my marriage of 17 years, yes, as what he said, sunk. Yes, my sunk. I took a final dive and sunk. Why I said final dive is because the issue started in year 6. In year 6, I also had a miscarriage. And then the issue started in year 6 when my son was about 3 years old. We tried putting aside all the pain, struggle, hurts, you know. I discovered he has affair, fathered another child, you know. I put aside everything, and we tried to make things work for about 10 years. Ups and downs, lots of them, you know, until finally he said, that's it, you know, I want out. Okay. And so that's where I started hunting for, I told you the 3 things, my spiritual director, my legal advice, and my counselor. Okay. Then, what happened? We were then also too ashamed at that point in time to get help because of all the stigma. So, you know, unlike them who got help, I didn't go to the church for help. And so everything went down. And my husband then was not, actually he got converted in the midst of it, but he wasn't practicing. Things just didn't go that right for me, I feel, you know. I was not, we just didn't get things right from the very start. So then, but God, I think through it all, I think what I experienced was God's graces, God's love, tremendous love. And one of it was the grace of forgiveness, you know. I asked for it. I prayed for it, and I said, help me to forgive myself, and forgive my husband and the other woman. Okay, the children has got nothing to do with it. And really what was divine grace poured on me. Okay. The forgiveness truly freed me so much from all the pains and the hurts, the resentment, you know, towards myself, towards my husband, towards the other woman. So much so that if you ask me right now, I can say that healing is a process, you know. It can never be 100% kind of thing. But I think I've gone through a big chunk of it, you know, that I am living a life full, as what John 10:10 said. I'm giving you life to the full. And that's what I have right now. You know, I'm receiving all the sacraments. I'm active in the parish, you know. I'm happy as a person, not just outwardly, but internally, you know. I could feel the happiness coming forth. I could love. You think divorced people can't love? No, I think I'm loving more than ever, you know. And I could love freely, totally, and fruitfully and faithfully. That's what Christopher West said. Okay. That is a love that frees me so much to be able to give of myself. That I have no attachment to whatever I do. Okay, I work in the ministries. We have a lot of guys in the ministries and all that, you know. So I have never any intention of any relationship with anybody, because I feel that I am complete as who I am right now. I don't need another man to complete me. I don't need another man to keep me company for the rest of my life, you know, till my deathbed and all that. I don't need another person to fulfill me. I already feel fulfilled. And whatever I choose to do with the proper discernment, I will give my best and my all in whatever I do. So coming to this, there are only 2 points that I want to bring out, and that is 2 messages that I want to share for you to take home. And it's an analogy of the cross that we have, right? The vertical cross and the horizontal cross. I'm sure you all know what the vertical cross represents, right? Do you? Our relationship with God, okay? And the horizontal with one another. Which is the longer one? The vertical cross or the horizontal cross? The vertical cross. So what does that mean? Is that more important? In every building that we build, tall buildings, I'm not an architect or an engineer. Isn't that the vertical pillar and the foundation the most important to keep the building upright in any storms, earthquakes? So too in the building that we are building, the family building. Is God that pillar in our lives? We always said, you know, in our marriage vows, the third person is Christ. So is God really in that marriage that we have? Definitely not in mine, you know. I was blessed with a good foundation in my faith from the beginning of my, I was baptized as a young adult, you know. But unfortunately, you know, in the movements of the marriage, courting and everything, I kind of, God, you stay one side, you know. Unfortunately, I took that path. That's true. It's that's where I went. But is God in the center? God was not in the center. So is God the pillar in the building, in this so-called building that we are trying to build, the family? And the foundation. We all know about love tank. What is your love tank? Half? Quarter? 3/4? Full? We always hear of couples telling each other, my better half, my other half. Why half? Ask yourself. Why half? For me, it should be 2 persons who are wholesome, full, coming together. And the love tank that is being filled is not filled by each other. You're not the other half. And what the half waiting for the other spouse to fill the other half of the love tank? What if the other half failed, like myself? We went out and seek other people to fill that other half. But are we both too two persons who are full, love thankfully filled by God, coming together and sharing that love with each other, and thereby going out to multiply and be fruitful. Shouldn't that be the way? And then we hear of empty nesters. There again, maybe our love tank is half and we're waiting for our children to fill the other half. And by the time they grow up, they get married, they move out, we become empty nest. Our love tank becomes half or even more empty now. Because we have filled it all with all the children and everything else. So ask ourselves, is this love tank filled by God or by other things in our lives? And the other horizontal one, I'm sure you all know what it is. It's our horizontal relationships with each other when you're married. And definitely, most importantly, just as important rather, is the community. The whole of this World Meeting of Families that I've heard so far is about community support. Okay, we all know how important it is to have the couple time, privileged couple time, spending time with each other, making time for each other. We make time for our careers, 16, 18 hours, some of us, to build this career that we may not even last you forever. But then leaving the rest of the very tired hours for our spouse. So where is our priority? So this horizontal relationship with your spouse and with the community. I don't believe we can live in silos. Me, my husband or my spouse and my children, we are a happy family together and we are happy just by ourselves. Doesn't work that way. I don't believe it will work that way. We need each other in the family communities to support each other. I mean, later on when you hear the whole World Meeting of Families, the conferences are all about catechesis, supporting the young ones, the young couples, early years of marriage and all that. Okay. And then at the end of it, allow me to use Father Richard's famous term, cliche words, but I find it very, very meaningful, is that. So is God the pillar, or is he a life jacket that you take out only during the storm? The choice is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. It's quite an eye-opener to hear that she has had such difficulties walking alone. I never knew that they would say things like, you're not allowed to be an extraordinary minister of communion, or that you can't receive communion. I thought there was clear theology that you are still sacramental, as long as you haven't got into another relationship sexually, for example. But it's an eye-opener in that sense. And I think that, this mindset that when you're divorced, you're a failure, it's a very sad mindset. It's not true. You're still alive. You're still faithful. And I like to use a term, I explained this to Gillian last time, even if you're divorced, you are a covenant keeper. You are faithful to your vows. You are still married, in a sense, unless you're annulled, for example. So you're still a covenant keeper. So keep it up and be courageous. I'd like to share also at this point in time, interestingly, it came to my mind that, when I lost Ying, they all said that, how will Bernard have a life again? So, divorce and bereavement are two facets of the same thing. To walk alone again, naturally, is a song I love, What's wrong with being alone? What's wrong with that? Okay? And anyway, I've always said that my priorities in life, the first important priority in my life is my God. He's number one in my life. My spouse is number two, not number one. My kids are number three. Ministry is number four. And my work is number five. Work pays for 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how important work is to me. It's important, of course, but it's not the most important. So even if I lose my spouse, I still have my God. I'm full. You're still full and complete. And in that sense, you have, in theological parlance, the eschatological union, the end union of times when you are with Christ, the way the religious and the clergy have it. Thank you, Gillian. Thank you so much.
Thing to
Yep.
add. Okay, during my time, I didn't know about all these programs, Retroval. Retroval, actually, I heard of it, but I tried to attend, but I just couldn't find the connection. And then there was also BE then, they also had a program also. And BE runs 2 weekends in a year, one in the March holiday and one in the September school holiday that weekend. So I called BE right after their March holiday, March weekend. Then I said, they told me I have to wait until September. I said, oh my God, if I were to wait until September, I would have committed suicide by then. I couldn't wait. The emotional trauma was just too much for me to take it. To have to wait till then without any support. I said, no way. So that's when I went hunting for my own spiritual director, my counselor, and my legal support for help. And amazing how God works. After my divorce, after I get my final judgment in 2014, in 2015, I was called up by the ACF team, John Wee, to help out in the single parenting committee. And that's when we found this surviving divorce program from the US. And so that's how Catholic Divorce Support Group came into the picture right now as one of the affiliates of CFL to help this support those who are going through difficult marriages. Of course, if Retrovile and other programs can help as a couple, by all means go ahead. But if the other party is not willing to go through those couple related programs, surviving divorce is that's how we hope to help those who are going through difficult marriages. Of course, this is one ministry where I always tell ourselves, we don't want the numbers to go up. We want the numbers to go down, 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 down. But to be honest, the numbers are going up, 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 up. Okay, we started with handful. Okay, now the number of participants are often double digits, and we run the programs. We hope to cover where BE is not covered between September and March and September. That's where our programs come in to help those who are in need. So I thank God that we have another program in the church to help those in need. Thank you.
Great. So Gillian has just highlighted certain deficiencies that we have in our archdiocese in Singapore in terms of attending to needs of those who are distressed in Retrovile and BE. So we have just given more work to CFL. Okay, and with that, we go to our last speaker, Brother Colin, who works with Hope House with dysfunctional kids, as well as his counseling experience with couples and families. Brother?
Thank you, Bernard. Most of you would know me as a comedian. But I think in this panel, I will share with you how I have seen families or work with families who have difficulties. And I'd like to start off with some of the crossroads of family life in Singapore. And as I read the 4 types, I would like you to reflect together with me. So the crossroads of family life in Singapore, type 1. A previously married woman with children marries a man with no children. Type 2. A previously married man with children marries a woman with no children. Type 3. A remarriage where both spouses have children from previous marriages. And type 4, a single parent with children whose spouse remarries. So it says something about the family. don't look at it in a negative way. It is just families happening in Singapore. So at the crossroads, one finds a turning point that brings hope. Sometimes crossroads are not that bad, not negative. So with hope, the purpose of living each day becomes meaningful. Okay? I like you to now reflect with me on, okay, we look at families. Now we look at children. Again, 4 types. Children who come from unique families where there is a need for special adjustments. And that's where I work with also. Some of the boys who are in a home, I run a home by the way. The family is so koya, I tell you. But yet, sometimes we help them through. And if they are open, they can make it. Sure. Okay? So again, 4 types. Type 1. The child lives with a single mother and visits a remarried father. Type 2. The child lives with a remarried mother and visits a remarried father. Type 3. Child lives with a remarried mother and visits a single father. And type 4. The child lives with a single father and visits a remarried mother. So when we look at families in crisis, we look at the couple as well as we look at the children going through. At the end of my time, I hope I have a little bit of time where I will offer you a simple reflection for you to assess your own marital relationship based on the psychological push and pull factor that's happening all the time. That's for you to take home as a reflection. Okay. I would like to now go through, I will skip this part. I'll go through, there's one question which the organizers asked me to answer from last night. How can empty nesters reignite their relationship again and build a domestic church when all the kids have grown up and have their own lives? I've scribbled something. Prayed so hard about this. Empty nesters, this is a phenomenon in which parents experience feelings of sadness and a loss when the last child leaves home. So if you have children, the last one to leave home, be prepared. Then you will feel that now it's going to be empty. What can you do? 1, find a hobby. Start looking at what you can do lah. Instead of, wallowing over what is going to happen to me. I'm lonely, I have no one. First one, find a hobby. Second, continue to keep in touch with your children. And there's not many children here, I can see mostly. But children also, to keep in touch with your parents, especially those in their last phase of life. I think I would like children to know that. If it is taped, I think I will please send them this part. Continue to keep in touch with your parents. Don't wait for the time when they are in their last stage on the deathbed, and you start crying. Death is not about dying. Death is about living. Funeral is not for the dead. They are already dead. They are already like kayu. You cannot, don't organize a grand funeral. No need. Funeral is not for the dead. Funeral is for the living. For the living to process the grief of saying goodbye to a loved one. So children, even if you have your own life, connect with your parents who are in their last phase. And the third point is, find romance. Sorry, brother, telling you to find romance. Bring romance back into your life. Being older requires the couple to take better care of each other, strengthening the relationship. Relationship based on feelings alone, which is just doing each other favors, will result in hurt once emotional ties are broken. Only relationships coming from the heart can withstand the test of time. This is one line which in my prayer it came out very strongly. Only relationships coming from the heart can withstand the test of time. And of course, for being partners in life, there are 3 P's that you have to go through. One is when you start your life, the couples have shared just now, the pairing stage, where you choose your pair, your partner, to live with the person for life. You can do that. I can't. I am sent to that community, and you make it, or you whether you make it or not, you live with them. But you can choose, this is the one that I want to live with right to the end. First part, pairing. Second P, when the child arrives, is the parenting. I think the earlier couple mentioned parenting skills, no? That you involve both in the parenting skills, changing diaper, making milk, etc. Yeah? And the third one is partnership. So pairing, courtship years, parenting, the arrival of the first child, the second P. The third P, partnership, where couples give meaning to intimacy. From my window, I looked out. You see the elderly couple coming back after Tai Chi, and they hold each other's hands and they walk with the other hand with an umbrella as a walking stick. It's so beautiful, to see that this is the last stage of their life, that they can, be together. Okay, and I'll offer you this part, this last bit, for you to take home. This is bonus because it's still time, a bit more time. I like to offer you the psychological push and pull factor in a marital state. There are 2. One is the internal push and pull. The other one is the external push and pull. Go slowly, otherwise you will be confused. Internal push and pull, external push and pull. The internal pull is positive. So when you are reassessing or when you are evaluating your marital state, look at the internal first, pull factor. What is it that brings you together as couple? Strengthen that part. The internal pull, positive. The internal push, negative, where you push each other further and further away over the smallest things. And in my years of journeying with couples, I can share with you, over the smallest things, like I asked him to squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom up. He just goes like that. How to brush my teeth? So they fight over toothpaste, squeezing toothpaste. Okay, so there's a push factor. So internal pull, positive, push, negative. External. The external is the opposite. The external push is positive. Like someone said just now, after a fight, I run back to my family. Yeah? Okay. But good. The family said, girlie, this couple, she had a fight with her husband and she went back to her mother And the mother said to her, "Girlie, you are married to your husband. We can keep you for 2 days here. It's all right. But you have to go back eventually. Go and work that out. We cannot be your safe haven here." Okay? That's the push, and that is positive, external push. The external pull is negative. And that is when the family cannot let go of their child, the pull. The guy went home and told the wife, "Darling, we are just married. So I'm planning a honeymoon." This was, I was journeying with this couple. They were planning a honeymoon, and he said, "Darling, my mother is the last time she can travel, no? So honeymoon, I'll bring her, lah." And the wife told me, "Brother, you know what honeymoon is for, right?" How could I say, yeah, I know. I pretend I don't know. No, I don't know what is it. What will happen during honeymoon? That's the pull, and she couldn't let go. So when you are in your relationship, marital relationship, assess the internal push and pull, assess the external push and pull. That's a bonus for you. God bless and take care.
Thank you, brother. We will have some questions, and you can see the questions up here. I like to look at the second question because part of marriage catechumenate involves leading our little ones and not so little ones, courting couples towards marriages. So what can we do as church to keep our youth active and faithful after confirmation? Bishop has always said this, that after his confirmation service, he knows that about 10% will stay, 90% will leave the faith. That's a lot. And when they go out into the universities and polys, the distractions are severe. So how do we keep this band of youth in tune with the faith? Some believe that sometimes, you have to find your own way, trial and error, and come back. What are your solutions? What are your thoughts on this, keeping the marriage preparation for the proximate group ongoing? How can we do this? Anyone would like to answer this question? Those involved in youth ministry in church?
Okay, so for us, actually, after confirmation, we continued our ministry in church. So I was always involved in RCRY, and now looking back, I mean, these are really, really very, very important years of continual formation, because otherwise, I think our that decision just to give up on my marriage would have been quite easy. But because there is God, that formation, and I know how God has always been there for me in my life, and how He has carried us through, and therefore with that faith, I think that is very key for our marriage. And I think the other thing is also catechesis, to know more about what marriage is about and what God meant marriage to be for a couple. I think that's also very important for our youth to know. So when I look at our kids, I think sadly the youth community in our parish is not as active as I would like it to be. But I think the good thing is because we have been in community, right, with our CP community as well as with the Family Life community in Holy Spirit Church. Our kids have formed very, very close friendships, with the couples, with our community, and because of that, I think they share, with that similar group of friends sharing that similar religion, they discuss certain issues. Like my daughter, being 14 this year, one of her friends was asking her, come and visit my Christian church, right? And then we had a very good discussion about what's the difference between, the Christian church versus our Catholic church. And, having that close friends, because because our involvement in the community. So, you know, with that Catholic group of friends, you know, they appreciate the Catholic Church teachings even more. You know, like for example, if we talk about premarital sex, why is it wrong, abortion, and you know, LGBT and all these issues, I think that they tend to be more open, and we are able to discuss this much better and easier. And I'm really, very thankful that they have really found very good friends of similar faith, and I guess that will help them. And hopefully they will then slowly form their own communities and get active in ministries. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else to add to that question about dealing with our young? Yes, please. Do you need a mic? Behind you, the mic.
Okay, first can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not a cradle Catholic. I was brought into Catholicism when I was very young, 6. But I realized that the catechism that I was given and is not enough to help me to face the challenges of life and even to appreciate what Christianity is. Because the way I was taught catechism at that time, Christianity became like a lot of do's and don'ts. And it emphasized a lot of memory. You have to remember the right answer. And I remember when I was young, when my answer was slow, I get a knock on my head, even by my catechism teacher. Anyway, in my time, teachers were allowed to hit us physically. So you go to school, you get hit. You go to catechism class, you get hit. And then the emphasis was a lot of mortal sin and venial sin. Then when I look back, I believe God intervened into my life. And I was in seminary for several years. I went to the Redemptorist Seminary. And it took me, after several years, and took me 1.5 years in addition to discern that I didn't have a vocation to the Redemptorist. So having left the seminary, one day there was an advertisement in the church that there will be a catechesis. And at that time I didn't know what it was all about. Because when I left seminary, I didn't immediately think of marriage. I also was someone who liked to be left alone. So my brother thought that I was a bit strange because I don't seem to be interested in girls, and I don't seem to be interested in having friends. But I like to be alone. When I got married, then I saw this announcement because I was very concerned that how am I going to live my Christian life, having been taught more and to understand more what Christianity is. So there was this announcement in the parish of St. Bernadette's. I attended, and it made me realize that if there's not an ongoing catechesis, or now the term is being used, if there's no catechumenate like the early church, where you take years to prepare and to realize that God calls you, that it is God who made you, then it is very difficult to live life with all these pressures and challenges.
True.
And the charism that God called me, and through that I realized that God searches for me. God knows that on my own I cannot make it. I will succumb, because by nature, as the church teaches me, is fallen. And many times in the past I used to think, why do I sin? Why do I do wrong? And I thought it was a sin that made me a sinner. Then I realized I sinned because I'm a sinner. So if God doesn't redeem me, I cannot do anything else but sin. So in this charism, that God helped me to know that and to hope in His love. This charism is called the neo-catechumenal way. In a parish where it is welcome, the parish priest will allow catechesis to take place. And through that series of announcement of the kerygma, a community is formed, but not just a community of single or just married people, but it's a community that represents society in general. So you have people who are old, who are young, who are married, who are single. And then the community journeys together through meeting once a week with the Word of God, and then celebrate the Eucharist on Saturday. And then once a month, the community gathers together to spend one whole day, to do the morning prayer, and then to share.
So
how
it's
God has
about community, right?
So
that's right.
So I realized that, okay, even with present day, when I was in seminary, I studied, okay, we were taught about Second Vatican Council. And that was years back. Now when I look back, I think many discovery, many renewal still have yet to take place.
Sure.
And because we don't receive catechesis, we are now having struggle when challenges come up like gender issues.
Right. So in summary, it means that you feel that catechesis can come from communities, wherever we are, including the new catechumenal group, right?
So the church, so I think that's very important that catechesis be given, and there's ongoing catechesis that help us in our faith.
Sure.
Actually, Bernard, can I say something?
Yes, Ronnie.
I think with regards to this subject, there'll. Okay, so with regards to this subject on the youth, there's a lot to talk about on the youth, and I think tomorrow there's another session that clearly spells out and talks a lot more about the youth, and there's a panel on it, and there's a youth panel on it as well. So for those who are interested, you should come tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. So to wrap up, because we need to get on with lunch, I'd like to thank the whole panel here who've spoken about the challenges in marriages and how we continue to want, as Brother Colin says, to find love, to get romance, whether with one person or with others. And that's my take as well, to seek love whenever we can find it and to get on with life. So with that, we thank you very much for being here at this session, and we will have you chit-chat some more at lunch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Big hand for all our panelists, please. Again, a bigger round of applause, please. Okay, we're not going to take up more of your time, so it's time for a lunch break right now. Lunch is at level 1, I was told. So please help yourselves at lunch. I heard it's bento sets. I will see you back here at about 1:45, 1:50. Okay, before this afternoon, we've got some more interesting sessions coming up as well. So have a quick lunch, enjoy yourself. We'll see you back here at about 1:45, 1:50. Thank you.